Hey, Monday is always a great day because we always have a visit with Joe DiGenova.
All right.
And always so much
Joe
to talk about. I want to start, though, with this really, really horrific murder down in Texas. When you kill an authority figure, either an elected official or district attorney, that kind of thing, I think you're impacting society. It's not just a personal, murder is murder. It's horrible. But when you murder someone who impacts the society, someone that we all rely on to do society's work, like a district attorney, it has an extra ramification. I hate crimes like that. It's horrible. And that's what's happened. This is a very, very interesting story that we're all following, especially considering the assistant DA in this Texas town also got murdered about 2 weeks ago. Joe DiGenova, are you following this?
Yes, very carefully. As a former United States attorney who received threats both while he was in office and after he left office, I can assure you that law enforcement now takes this very seriously. The first killing was bad enough, and they were already concentrating heavily on it. But once the boss of the person who had been killed and his wife, who was also a public official, were killed, this took on a new dimension. This is not a random act. I think that they are probably focusing on a Mexican drug gang. The likelihood that it's somebody local with a vendetta is highly, highly questionable. But I do know that the Bureau is now in, along with a number of other federal agencies. This is very serious business. This is a classic example of what the border gangs try to do when they try to take over towns in Mexico. They kill leadership. They kill journalists. That's why my instincts would lean toward Mexico. However, there's no proof of anything right now.
Right, and you're getting some leaks. Some people from law enforcement, or at least they're describing the scene. They say it's awful, shell casings everywhere. This was one of those, like a major, it's like an assassination. It basically is an assassination.
It's a professional
job. But what's interesting, and I think that most people would assume, because this is Texas and because he was very, very strong on border security and hammering the Mexican drug cartels, we would all assume that. But I'm seeing media reports now trying to link this to a murder in Colorado that we discussed 2 weeks ago, a prison official who was killed by a white supremacist gang. Have you seen those reports?
I have, and I don't see any basis for linking the two. There is absolutely no evidentiary link between the two crimes. And if there were, believe me, the media would be full of stories from local law enforcement officials saying that there was such a link. It doesn't mean that ultimately that couldn't happen, but right now the speculation is ludicrous about that.
Hey, Joe, Dan Bongino here. Having been on the inside as a federal agent and worked with assistant United States attorneys, we call them the old AUSAs, if you threatened a federal agent or an AUSA, assistant United States attorney, there was virtually a crime, no more serious than that, because that's the core backbone of a civilized society, the ability to prosecute crimes and not have to worry about the repercussions later on. Having been on the inside, you can attest to that fact that inside those offices, if they get wind of this, that this is some kind of an organized plot to threaten folks, that this is going to be treated as almost a national security type issue.
Yeah, well, that's precisely what it is, because without law enforcement personnel, you cannot have ordered liberty, and that's what this is all about. That's why the Mexican drug gangs always go after law enforcement officials, elected officials, and their families, because they try to neutralize the ability of those people to do their jobs. This will not work in the United States. I expect there to be a crushing federal and state presence down there. They will solve this crime, a series of crimes, and believe me, it's not going to be pretty. But this may not be the last murder. There may be more to come.
Wow. But Joe DiGenova, this happens with the backdrop of the discussions here in Washington with regard to immigration reform. Right. You had Chuck Schumer yesterday on the morning shows getting all excited because the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the AFL-CIO have struck an agreement, and he's acting like, well, there you go, we've got our law. Yeah. Since when do we suddenly start legislating at the Senate because two private groups, a union and the Chamber of Commerce, happen to agree on something? Why does this mean suddenly we've got a law?
Well, we don't. First of all, you have to remember the source. Chuck Schumer, the mouth that roared, a man who you always never get between him and a television
Right,
camera.
The most dangerous place in Washington.
He's the only person who wants Harry Reid to die soon so he can become majority leader.
Oh, Joe!
The truth is, Schumer wants a bill very badly because he is nothing other than a political animal. He doesn't have 1 ounce of legitimacy with regard to the legislative process in his body, but because he's a Democrat, he's allowed to get away basically with legislative murder. The problem they have is they've gotten Marco Rubio upset about leaking this. This is hilarious. Schumer leaks the story and then pretends he doesn't know anything about it. I mean, this is classic Chuck Schumer. Rubio is very upset because he wants there to be a public debate and an education of the public before this bill is passed, if it does get passed. The other problem is there's no guarantee whatever the Senate passes is going to get through the House of Representatives. So they better take their time. And if they rush this in the Senate and they push a bill to a markup, it was really fascinating yesterday. Schumer was talking about, we've agreed we're going to have a big markup. Excuse me? What about hearings first?
Yeah.
What about hearings before a markup? This is hilarious. I mean, this is, if a Republican did this and they were in control of the Senate, Schumer would be screaming, where are the hearings? Why are we going with a barren record? I mean, all the nonsense that he trots out. So just watch him. He is Slick Willie squared.
Joe, can't they just be honest, the liberal left? They are not interested in borders. Borders. We sent the man to the moon. We have the technology to do this. It's very simple. They don't want order and they don't want borders. It's simple as that.
And liberals don't have to be honest because they have the advantage of the media being on their side. And that's the world we live in. You have to accept it. That's why the people on the right and the conservatives and the people on the Republican Party have to be smarter, faster. They have to be what the old coach down in the South said. He said, I want my players to be agile, mobile, and hostile.
Joe DiGenova, though, Rubio has been very smart in saying, listen, if this is going to be done, and everyone feels like it is going to be done, an immigration bill, it needs to be done in a way so it doesn't seem, the American people don't feel like we're being lied to or things are getting pushed
like
through.
Like they were in 1986.
Exactly.
This is exactly what happened in 1986 when the American people, under the Simpson-Mazzoli bill, were told we were going to seal the border, we were going to legalize 2.5 million illegals. We legalized them, and look what happened. 11 million, at a minimum, 11 million more people came. This will not work.
And, Joe, all of the conversations you're hearing right now, they're barely talking about the border. They're just talking about the economics, the wages, how we're going to naturalize people. Because of this, bringing it back now to the assassination of this district attorney in Texas, will this now bring border security back into the forefront of this conversation?
Certainly, if it proves that this was related to a Mexican drug cartel, you're going to have there will be a work stoppage on this bill. There will be a work stoppage.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see Mr. Trumka's head explode over that. Joe DiGenova, always good to have you join us. Good morning, and thanks for being here.
Happy Cesar Chavez yesterday.